Welcome to Power of the Tribe podcast. I'm your host, John Connors. I'm also the founder and head instructor of Connors Martial Arts. We're right here on Kerry Place in Norwood. We teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai kickboxing, and mixed martial arts. And I'm here with my co-host, Dan Robin. How you doing, Dan?
I'm doing all right.
Dan, the last time we spoke, last week, you were in the Jiu-Jitsu pit of despair.
I was.
It sounded grave, and you were threatening on doing a jiu-jitsu walkabout where we wouldn't see you for 6 months as you went into the jiu-jitsu outback. So it's a bit of a cliffhanger. It's like one of those old serial movies. Our hero was dangling on the edge of the pit.
Right while I was mentally in the pit of despair,
Yeah.
I also hurt my knee, and I was talking about that last time. So I had injury. So I was like, that's it. Like when the knee went out, I was like, that is it. That's it. I'm going on walkabout.
You're on walkabout.
No. Then what happened is my knee felt better.
Oh.
And it changed my whole, I started being like, well, all right. I actually, it healed surprisingly fast. Like I forgot Tuesday.
I wonder if it was a psychosomatic
injury. I think
injury.
it was Tuesday. I could barely keep my balance on it. And then a few days later, it felt fine. So
As I remember, you were at a baseball game, two-fisted with beer.
Yeah.
And
I was walking down the ramp.
And you had trouble walking.
Fall. My knee was all wobbly.
Did you
unstable.
think the alcohol had anything to do with the wobbliness? That's just a coincidence?
Think about it. I was driving unstably too. No, it was my knee.
Yeah.
But it healed. So then what I also realized is that, we talked about being in the pit of despair where you just feel like every roll, you just feel like you suck. But it's more than that because I still feel like every roll I suck, but I don't mind now. Like for me, the pit of despair is it's not that combination where every roll, all you think is how badly you're doing.
Right.
And you care. You know what I mean? And you're like, why do I suck?
Then it becomes distracting. You can't even focus on what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
And you're out of it.
Well, it's so hard because your motivation gets really when you're just like, I'm terrible. It's hard to get fired up and competitive and compete because you're just like, oh, who cares? You just feel like lying down, curling up in a ball, which you can do in jiu-jitsu actually, but
it could be an effective strategy.
It's the one sport where you actually can do that and do okay. Most sports that's not really recommended, but it's not that I feel like I'm doing better, rolling well or anything. Don't get me wrong, nothing positive, but I'm not minding so much now, if that makes sense. I'll still feel like I'll have fun rolling. If you stopped me after the roll and said, how'd you do there? I'd be like, oh, bad. But I wouldn't be like all mopey. I don't know why.
Oh, mopey. Oh, that's right. We talked about the Mope Role.
Yeah.
So you're not mope rolling.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just sort of it's not like I feel like, oh, I'm progressing. I'm all happy. I'm positive. But it's like, who cares? Which can be good too. Yeah, I'm still bad, but it's fine. Now, maybe from there, then you work. Maybe next week, if it keeps going in this direction, then I start feeling better from there. But it's good. I'm just trying to get out of the pit of despair without actually leaving the gym, which is a valuable thing to do.
I think so. I'm happy to hear that.
It's hard. And I also said, I think a lot of people get in the pit of despair and they leave the gym and they never even admit they were in the pit of despair. It's sort of like they just kind of sneak away and say, oh, I'm injured, or I could have said it's because of my knee. I'm perfectly happy.
You're a very stable guy, Dan. I would say that you are way above average in emotional stability. So if it happens to you, can you imagine somebody who is more emotionally variable? It must happen to them even more.
And I think like a lot of things in life, actually all of this applies to more than jiu-jitsu, which is you feel like nobody else it never happens to anybody else.
Right.
That's why I wanted to talk about it on the podcast. Yeah. Even for me, you were like, oh, I've been there. And I'm like, you've been there. Why would you ever be there? It's kind of shocking to me. And the more you've mentioned it, the more people think they've been there. And so, everyone's different, but.
Isn't it funny too, how easily it seems we fall in and out of the pit of despair? Something happens, some little thing, and all of a sudden you're out.
It's a good point because I don't really even understand why, when I'm in the pit of jiu-jitsu despair, why I'm even there. It's not sometimes you can say why. I was talking with, who was it? Mike Brown, I think. and he got, he had a bad roll in particular that he remembered, and he was like, I was in a bad mood for 3 weeks. And, it happens though. I think it's common. And but sometimes, and at least he noticed which roll did it.
It's almost like, remember last year, the Patriots, they went through some point in the season where they were struggling, and Brady was just doing good. He wasn't doing perfect. And suddenly people are like, well, Brady really is over the hill. Yeah. They're screwed now. They don't have any quarterback. He's no good anymore. They're just not that good. Belichick isn't that smart. He's not good. The next thing you know, they win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And then you
They've
can't
done
even remember that part where, like, remember how it was really dark and we thought it was all over? No, I can't really even remember it.
Completely over. Or even a couple seasons ago, they had that Chiefs game where they got blown out.
Right.
But this last season, they lost to these terrible teams. They got blown out by Tennessee, and just these bad games. Detroit.
Yeah.
And so it was like, it's over for them.
It's over for them.
Like, not even just, for the whole dynasty is over.
It's
like,
all
we're
over.
About to enter 15 years.
And they were never really as good as we thought they were.
Yeah, exactly. They were overrated in the first place.
Then they win. And it all swings the other way now.
Yeah. So I think that's probably the parallel, right, for in jiu-jitsu. But I don't think everyone knows. Like, it doesn't even occur to me that other people in the gym felt the same way. Because there's probably some people that don't feel that way. There's probably some people that are super steady.
Yeah.
And then just come in and they just roll and they never think about.
I wrote a blog post probably 10 years ago now, and I entitled it "Unreasonable Confidence." And some people do have an unreasonable confidence. And I remember Kenny Florian talking about his early jiu-jitsu training, and he learned like that. What do they call it? Like the bullfighter pass, where you just grab the pants by the legs and you walk around. And he said, "Yeah, I was once I learned that, I thought I was invincible. I could pass Rickson Gracie's guard. Nobody could stop me." And I think that type of confidence can be really helpful for a competitor and somebody looking to perform well.
And you probably do that pass really well, too, because you have that mindset like, this is going to work.
Right. There's no hesitation. You're completely committed to what you're doing. And that gives you the best performance probably that you can get.
Right. Because, well, I don't know if you've had this, but I have the opposite, right, which is like 3 failed passes in a row, and you're like, I can't pass this guy. Like, I can't. I just, you kind of settle back down into their guard or something.
Well,
I can't get past this.
That's the tricky thing about jiu-jitsu, because it's a good thing. You try something, it doesn't work. You might try it again a couple times, it still doesn't work. Oh, I guess I'll try something else. That's how the human brain and nervous system works, and it's for our own benefit. So then we can find solutions. But you have to balance that sort of persistence with transitioning to something else. Like, when should I persist doing the same thing? When should I transition and do something else? It's completely contextual, and you can only learn that from experience.
Right. And then when you get in this darkness periods, you don't have any of that, right?
Then you don't have any. You're like, not only is this not working, whatever the hell else I'll try probably won't work either.
Right. And all this applies to outside of the gym, right? Like, people, I imagine, go through this in life. I don't really have like darkness, pits of despair in my life, but it sounds like the same thing, right? Where people just get down.
You could have it.
Everything's going to go wrong for me. Nothing's can go right for me.
I think so. In business, in finances, in romance, you're like, oh my God, I'm going to be alone forever. And then all of a sudden things turn around and everything's perfect again.
Right.
Yeah.
And I bet it's the same thing where you don't, sometimes it's a breakup that causes it, but sometimes you can't even pinpoint what pushed you over the edge.
Right.
Where you're just like, everything's dark for me now.
Yeah.
Mine's only jiu-jitsu, so I'll take it.
You can limit it to that. Yeah, that's probably a good thing to limit it to.
Yeah, but it's just interesting to me to see, like, Mike Brown saying he's in the pit of despair, because I'm like, oh, he just seems like he's really good and athletic.
Seems like he's good and getting better all the time,
progressing really well. Like, everything seems positive about his game to me. And I'm like, oh, well, again, I'm just shocked, and so that this applies to all different kinds of people,
It does, yeah. Definitely. And I think we do like to think that some people are invincible, invulnerable to anything, or instructor or professor or a coach or whatever. Yeah, we tend to think that they don't have any challenges, any frailties, you know?
Yeah, and then that can make it harder to be. If obviously
Right.
it's harder when you feel like I'm the only one in here. Everyone else is enjoying themselves, and I'm
I'm the only one that's
despair.
struggling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. So after this, you're heading out to the Catskills. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's not.
I don't
much
know
to
if you're
say.
one of those super secret people.
No,
Well, this
I'm-
isn't going to be aired for a week,
Yeah, that's
so
true.
you'll be
I'll
back.
You mean like if someone going to hunt me down? I don't.
You might break in your house or
Yeah.
something, right? That's my old
Yeah, let's
Rossi
be clear.
thinking.
I will be.
You never
back
tell
by the
anybody
time you hear
when you're
this,
going on
everybody.
vacation because they'll sneak
I
in your
thought
house.
about that, about posting it on Facebook, but usually I've got someone at my house. I leave armed security there anyway, so
Right.
or usually actually honestly my dogs are there, so people don't want to come in anyway.
I don't think so. Not with those monsters. Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing to say. I'm going to Woodstock, like where the concert was.
Yep. The big hippie conference.
Yeah,
Concert. Yeah.
it's a hippie town. Like it never changed back from that concert, so it's still
It's kind of
there's a
cool,
lot
right?
of people in their 60s and 70s, like in tie-dye shirts, and yeah, it's just a fun little, and it's in the middle of nowhere, New York. So I'm just meeting some friends.
A lot of craft beer.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
that kind of place. And so a lot of people, I'm meeting a bunch of friends up there for the weekend. That's all.
Very
No
cool.
big thing. Probably no hiking.
Okay.
Because that I've said on here before, I hike these mountains,
Hmm.
but that's another one of those things where people that don't hike mountains, they don't want to go with you. And my friends don't. So I've run into that where I say, you
How
wanna
long
go?
does it take you to go up? When you say I'm going to go hike the mountain, what is it, like 2 hours up and 2 hours down or something?
That's the shortest, I'd say.
That's the
It depends
shortest.
on what we're doing,
Yeah.
like how far, but that's the shortest. Would be
Do you bring food with you or not?
Yeah.
You do. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, 2 hours up, 2 hours down, I wouldn't need to, but you definitely need water and food.
Right.
And experienced hikers, you always pack your like first aid stuff, and although not that I'd know what to do. Like I always wondered if I got bit. Like I was on one hike and there were rattlesnakes around the trail. I'm
In
like,
the
what-
Catskills?
Yeah, yeah, they have rattlesnakes.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
Huh.
I'm sort of like, what do you do if you get bit by a rattlesnake and you're like 3 hours from nowhere from your car?
Mm,
You got it. All you can do is walk to your car, right?
I think so. Yeah. Put a tourniquet on or something. I don't know.
Do you even?
I have no idea.
So yeah, that's what I always worry about, just being nailed with some weird thing.
That'd be a
while
bummer.
walking. It's like
Yeah.
a rattlesnake bit. But anyway, my friends, for reasons like that, if you're not a hiker, they just never want to go with me. So I'm sure we won't.
I could
go.
see if you don't hike regularly, that's a hell of a workout, right?
Yeah, that happens too. That sort of you fitness specific to certain workouts. Like
Yeah.
so, there's people that are very fit. Like Ramiro is super fit. Ramiro, the DJ, and he went up Mount Washington, and he was like, "This was the worst day of my life." And if you don't appreciate being in the woods,
Oh.
or the
So then it's just a whole
or
suck fest. The
or
whole
the
thing.
view doesn't mean that much to you. Like you
Yeah.
get to the top and you're like, I can see a view like this online. Like then, and there's people like that, and then they're like, what was the point of the whole thing?
Right.
It hurt.
I got
exhausted.
blisters on my
I got
ankles or
blisters.
something, heels.
It never ends. It feels like it never ends, and then you got to go back down,
Then you got to go down.
and which is exhausting too, and they don't see any point to it. So I don't try. I don't try to convince anyone to do anything anymore that they don't want to do, because they never. It's like jiu-jitsu. I think many people have that experience with jiu-jitsu. They start it and they tell all their friends, like,
That's
"Oh,
so
you're
interesting,
you're
Tim.
gonna love this."
Mm.
And then, for me, I thought like I'm gonna spread the word, and everyone I know is gonna get involved, and then nobody got involved. It was like, I'd say, "Oh, it's great. It really works, and it's really, all the stuff we all know is good about jiu-jitsu." And I thought everyone would follow me over, and one by one, I just realized.
I thought that when I started my academy, I thought everybody wants to do this. 100% of people would love this, and it's just not the case, of course. Yeah, I am myself getting tired of trying to convince people of obvious things. It's a little tiring, isn't it?
The thing is, you probably have some yourself, maybe even hiking for you. Like, I remember trying to convince someone about, I had a fish tank And they were like, why would you have a fish tank? And I spent like way too long trying to explain why I liked watching the fish. At the end of it, they were like, yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about. And I was like, why'd I waste 20 minutes trying? He doesn't like it. And then we each have our own things. Like I had someone talk to me how they love to cook. They'll spend 3 hours every day cooking. And I'm like, oh, that's torture for me. Or yard work, which I know neither of us like.
Right.
People like, I just love getting out there. And I'm like,
Crazy.
and they'll never convince us, right? Like you can't
No.
really convince people in general to see your point of view and things.
The fish
At
tank
all.
thing, cleaning it is what would kill me. I couldn't be into.
I just didn't really clean it.
You just never. Well,
So
that's
then
one
it's
way. That's a hack.
Yeah.
Life hack. Don't clean your aquarium. Yeah. Your
Yeah.
fish tank. Leave it uncleaned.
Yeah.
You save untold hours.
I don't have it anymore because it's a big,
Yeah.
I'm trying to clear out as much of that stuff out of my life as I can. More responsibility.
I'm trying to do that as well. Minimize. Yeah.
Yeah, and fish tanks that's the other thing. If you'd never had a fish tank, I take it.
I had one when I was a kid.
Yes, it doesn't count
Yeah.
as much. These bigger fish it's rough in a fish tank. Rough life in a fish tank.
It's ruthless in there, right?
Yeah, it's ruthless. Brutal murder was just a common occurrence in the fish tank.
So you would get like this new fish that you're all excited about, beautiful colors. Oh, I'm going to name him Alfred.
Yeah.
And you put him in there, and he's in there for about 4 seconds, and he just gets scooped up
I
and
just
consumed.
like, oh, it's not going well for Alfred. I remember once we got one like that. And it's like, we'll name him, and he made it into the night, and I went to bed, and I got up, and then my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, was like, how's Alfred or something? And I was like, don't come in here. Don't come in here. You don't want to see this. This is like
Decapitated.
it was just like miserable. Well, actually what happened was they ate out his eyes, and then he was swimming around blind trying to escape, and they were pecking at the sockets.
Sounds like Game of Thrones.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. You're sort of like, and that's like first thing in the morning, you're groggy.
Fish
You're like,
Thrones.
let's see how my pretty new fish is doing. And you're like, Jesus. You're looking at like, oh, it's brutal in there. Brutal in the fish tank. So anyway, and then I one more fish tank thing, which is they like possibly scarred one of my kids for life, in that I had a fish right when my oldest daughter was very young. One of the fish, she's like, Dad, one of the fish is out of the tank, and like they'd somehow jumped out.
Okay.
And it landed on the carpet, and it's like covered with like dog fur and all
right.
dried out, and so I plop it back in the tank, and it just sinks. It goes on its back and sinks to the bottom. Like just a slow sink covered with dog fur. So I'm like, all right, it's dead. So she's really little, and so I have the death talk, like explain death to her. I'm like, well, the fish, he's died, and so that means he won't be back, and this is my talk of explaining death to my child. That stupid fish, right when I finish explaining, springs back to life. Like it just like jumps back up and starts swimming around. So my daughter's like, so let me see if I understand death correctly. You for a while are out. And I'm like, no, all right. So then I'm like, look.
Did you have to explain zombies after that?
I re-explained. I'm like, look, so the fish wasn't dead. I thought he was dead. I walk her through the whole thing. So then we like have lunch or something. We come back and it's dead. So my daughter's like, so wait. So which part, like, and I'm like, to this day, I'm not sure she's totally has a firm grip on death.
Interesting.
Because of that stupid fish. So I'm staring at like the dead fish, like you little. So I'm out of the fish tank business.
Maybe that was just your guru powers. You could have started a whole movement based on that. He can bring dead back to life.
I have one more abstract point about a fish tank now that I think about it, which is, and this is a pet peeve that came up last week where I don't like people. We were talking about people that complain and don't have solutions, right? Like,
yeah.
So this is something that came up recently with me, which is, so the story it came up recently, but the story's from a while ago. And it was this. So tell me what you'd do. I was going to go on vacation for it was like a 2-week vacation, and I had this big fish tank with big fish in it, right? One of the fish, right before I go on vacation, is like floating upside down and like it's going to die. It's dying, like in the corner upside down, barely moving. So I'm like, I can't go on vacation with a dying fish. right? Like I can't, it's going to rot. Like I can't leave it in the tank and rot. Here's the key problem. It's too big to flush down the toilet, which is the normal, how you get rid of a fish, right? So I'm staring at it. I'm like, we got to go. You also have to pack. You got to get your stuff. You're trying to get ready. And there's this dying fish. So what do you do? Like, it seems like people are like, oh, just deal with it. I'm like, yeah, but I had to really make it, like, what do you do? Right?
I have no idea. Yeah. That's a tricky one.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like, you're stuck. Like, how do I handle this?
Do you put it out of its misery? That's one option, right?
But even that, what do you mean?
You got to kill it and throw it away, I guess.
All right, kill it. How?
Yeah, I don't know.
See, that's what I'm saying.
Chop it up or chop his head off or something? I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. So here's my solution.
And you know what makes this tricky? The whole frivolous vacation thing on the other side of the scale.
You're not canceling your vacation for a dying fish.
You're not canceling your vacation. No.
That's not even close.
No.
I mean, fish are all right, but
right.
You know. So my solution was this. I smashed his head in with a rock.
Okay.
Right? So seem fair? Fair enough?
Yeah. I was expecting a more nuanced answer, but yeah.
So I told this story like 10 years ago to people at my vet's office.
Really?
Yeah. And
Let me guess. It didn't go over well.
It didn't go over well. It went over poorly.
Huh.
I found out, so 10 years later, it just came up. So this is what the part that's kind of current. It kind of came up like, yeah, like one of the people from the office I was talking to, and she said, yeah, we still talk about that now, about how you smashed that fish's head in with a rock. And I'm like, this is what I'm saying, though. I'm like, it's easy to say.
Did they have a solution?
No, that's what I'm saying. Because they'll be like, I can't believe you smashed that fish's head.
They would put it like on a saline
like,
drip or
I can't
something,
believe how you did that. And then I'm like, what would you do? And they're like, I don't know what I do, but I'm mad at you anyway. You know what I mean? I'm like, well, that's not right. Like I actually had to do something.
So this happened 10 years ago, more or less.
The actual smashing of the fish?
Yeah.
I think even longer.
Even longer.
But then I told.
Have you since come up with any better solution?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Have you? Can you think of it?
Well, I haven't been thinking about it for 10 years. This is new to me.
The other thing I'll leave out the thing is like a minnow or something you could smash with a rock and you just be like, it's a flat little minnow. The bigger fish, it's a little gory. Like it's a little like.
Right.
A little less pleasant, you know? It's
a more substantial thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I never looked back. I was like, yeah, it was the fastest thing to do. Other people would have, if it was smaller, people probably wouldn't have had a problem if you flushed it down the toilet. Like that's such a great end. You know, I'm sure you'd rather have your head smashed in with a rock than flushed down a toilet.
I have no idea. Yeah.
I never thought about it for myself before, but
it's got to be a faster ending, right?
But it's got to be better.
Yeah.
And all I'm saying is that, so the abstract point is not about the fish. It's about criticizing when you don't have your own solution. Do you see what I mean? Like people are like, get on you. Like, I can't believe you did that. Like, well, what would you do? I don't know.
I think you got two things going on there.
You got to tell me something better. If you're going to criticize me, you should say why I would have done something else.
Yeah. Well, I think people we're sort of isolated from the ruthlessness of nature in our current society, right? And when people are forced to see it, they don't want to see it, right?
Well, yeah, no one's going to eat a hamburger if they will see a video of a slaughterhouse, right?
Right. Or what bears are doing to each other out there.
Yeah, I know, yeah. I know. Well, now with YouTube and cell phone cameras, you're getting more views of... Because people don't realize that the nature shows cut the worst stuff. You know, they cut
They do, don't they?
Basically, what they cut is how long it takes animals to die. Like, some are good. Like, if a lion gets a gazelle, it's dead quickly. But, like, a big ox and a pack of hyenas, you know, it'll take like 2 hours.
I saw on Twitter today a strange video where somebody had a small dog. I'm going to guess 15 pounds or maybe smaller, maybe 10 pounds, hard to tell. And it was barking at this alligator, and the alligator kept going back in the water, and somebody was videoing it. And then finally the alligator said, enough of this, and snatched up the dog and pulled it into the water, and that was that.
That's disturbing. Who in the hell videos the dog barking at the alligator? Doesn't get the dog out of there.
Exactly. Well, so somebody had posted this on Twitter as sort of like a public service thing. They said, we got to find out who did this. They should be charged. But you couldn't help but look at it once, you know.
Yeah, I would try not to. I don't want to see a dog get killed by an alligator, but it
actually was so quickly done that it wasn't particularly gory or anything. Yeah.
But the internet's, internet commenters are ruthless and horrible and immoral, so I'm sure
you're right. Yeah.
But well, there's other things out there like of just these videos of what goes on in nature. A very simple one that I don't know if you've seen it, but it's like their backyard, like a lawn and like a swing set, and it's just like kids' toys scattered around, and a bear has caught a deer.
Oh my!
In the backyard, and you're like, yeah, well, bears eat deer, but you don't think about it, right? Like, and
pretty disturbing.
Yeah, I'm sure you could. A bear catches deer. Google.
Well, they don't kill the animal, right? They just start eating it, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
That's the thing. They don't make sure it's dead.
The cats kill the animal, I think, right? Like jaguars, and I think they get your neck.
Yeah.
For the most part, and kill you first.
Yeah, but other things don't necessarily.
Yeah.
So, well, the other thing that animals do. Well, this is our most gory podcast,
right?
Ever. But animals will like scream.
Oh,
right. like they're in heart. Like so, my daughter's friend went to the beach off the Cape, and it was like a family, summer weekend. And so all families around, and a shark got a seal like right there, like right offshore. So you'd think like, oh, you'd picture like, boom, seal's gone, but it wasn't like that. Like
that's what I would have thought. It wasn't like that, huh?
No, the seal was frantically trying to get away, all up and down the shore, like trailing blood and shrieking. So it was like hundreds of traumatized people.
And how far in the water was he?
10 feet offshore. There's video of that too. So it's like, and so my daughter's friend was there, and it's like, as a parent, you're suddenly like, to your point, like, this is nature. This is, it's not
the shark's just trying to make a living like everybody else. Yeah.
Anyway, why, this is like the most gory, what's happening how'd we get here?
Fish tanks.
For me, fish tank. All right. Let's get back to like something
less disturbing.
That's disturbing.
Yeah.
I picture there's people listening like, what the hell? Like,
I don't know, Dan.
I was trying to laugh. I was trying to learn about leg locks.
When are they going to talk about leg locks?
Yeah, I thought they were going to do gi versus no gi. And what the hell is this?
What about nutrition?
Yeah.
For jiu-jitsu.
That is what we were planning on talking about.
We were going to talk about that. Yeah.
But how do we segue? We have to make a.
You could have ate the fish.
Nutrition. That's a bit of a transition there, right? A bit of a segue. Like, since we do not have to hunt our own food.
Those people that were still angry with you do they eat animals in any fashion?
I don't know.
Or are they vegan?
I don't know. Probably some fashion, right?
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying, although...
Especially if eating like lobster.
But I didn't do anything cruel. Like, do you know what I mean? It's sort of like, you could be like, I eat meat, but I'm not cruel to an animal. Or like, I would have saved the dog next to the alligator. But I didn't do anything.
No, you're actually you're an animal lover. We should put that out there. You explicitly are.
Yeah, I'm way to that side of that continuum. Yeah. So, I'm not even close to doing anything harmful. But what are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do?
Like I said, tell me a better solution.
Well, if you left the fish in there, it would have died and been partially consumed by the other fish. Or
maybe killed the other fish, right? Maybe it's dead of a disease and.
Oh, then the whole thing could have got wiped out.
Yeah, and at a minimum, it's decaying in the tank. Remember, this is a big fish. It's too big to flush down the toilet.
Yeah.
Like, it's decaying in there for, you can't leave it.
I think you did the right thing. I can't think of a better alternative.
Yeah.
Or you could have rushed him to the vet's office and dumped him off there. That's what you could have did. Like, I'll see you in 2 weeks. Boom. We got about a $10,000 bill, though. Yeah.
And just watch the vet like, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
fish disease. Generally, if fish get sick, they die, right? Like you don't, like they. I don't want to get back to fish, but they're like, I remember something like we had one fish. It's like, oh, we're gonna name him Oscar, and then you come in one day and you're like, what the hell is this? And apparently you can Google search this too. At the time you couldn't though. And apparently there's a disease called hole in the head disease, which is kind of on the nose for like what?
For naming?
Yeah, for naming of a disease. Hole in the head disease. So you come out and Oscar's got a big hole in his head and his brain's sticking out. And you're like, what the hell?
And is he still functioning?
Yeah, he's swimming around with his brain sticking out. And then the other fish are like, what's this now? And then they're starting to eating at the brain. Fish tank. It's
wow.
Hole in the head disease. I forgot it. So you don't really rush them to the vet. Like once the brain is sticking out, you're like, all right.
Probably not going to be saved.
Yeah.
Let's not plan any vacations for a couple weeks.
Yeah. Let's wait till hole in the head runs its course. But
wow.
So what was I talking about? Hole in the head, going to the vet. I don't remember now.
Yeah.
I'm traumatized remembering the fish tank.
It's a little disturbing. Yeah.
We had one. Also, we had like a little frog. You can sorry, I'm working this through now. John.
Yeah.
This is like a little frog that looks like a little person. You know what I mean? It has like a little face and hands and like.
And we're so used to in the cartoons that they dance and wear top hats.
It's sort of not the kind. It's called an African frog, so it belongs in a fish tank. It's not like the ribbity kind of. It has more like hands and a face.
Uh-huh.
And so one time I'm watching TV and suddenly the frog, I think it had a coronary. Like I still know what happened. But I'm sitting there with, again, it was my girl.
You went into cardiac arrest.
I think it was, I don't know. All I know is that it was like, and I go, like, Freddie, I swear it was like pounding on the glass.
Get me out of here.
Help.
Oh, it's so
and
sad.
So the reason we tell this, like my girlfriend at the time, is now my wife. Again, she looks at me and gets panicky, and she looks at me and goes, "Do something." like, what do you want me to? What do you want me to do?
Those frog CPR skills.
Yeah, what do you want me
work.
to do? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. CPR. I'm like, what? And so then it's like hammering on the glass.
Aren't you amphibiously CPR certified?
The frog's like mouthing words, like I'm dying. Just like we're watching, we're like, and you're helpless. You're like, what am I supposed to do? And then it gradually it stops thrashing and dies, and you're like, wow, that's like a Wednesday night. Like, yeah. Like, all right, should we finish watching the movie now? Like, I don't like. It kind of put like a little damper on Airplane or whatever we're watching, like on the comedy we're watching. But
that's right out of one of those 1950s sci-fi movies, right? Where the doctor becomes half frog. Yeah, there's like some giant frog walking around in a lab coat.
Yeah, it's like scratching at the
There's
tank.
a little guy in your tank. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. See, we've drudged up all these fish tank memories for me. Man. So anyway, you got to think about these things if you're going to get a fish tank.
I had no idea fish tanks were that disturbing.
Yeah. That's when we started putting other things in it to liven it up, like little crabs and crayfish.
Oh, right.
Well, you learn about nature, though, back to like everything just tries to kill whatever it can. Like if something can kill something else, it'll kill it.
It'll kill it.
So it's sort of like you just have to get fish that can't kill each other. Mostly, like that are just sort of similar sized or similar, like they just one's too fast or whatever it is.
I think that speaks to something that I find sort of disturbing and puzzling, is the inherent nature of competition in the universe. Like everything seems to be competing for resources against everything else.
That way, right?
Yeah.
So if I know you can bring this obviously to people. But still talking about nature, I've often thought it seems so cruel, right? It's sort of, you watch these nature shows and it's like that big cat is going to either kill the baby, whatever, or its babies are going to starve. Like one way or the other, a baby's dead. You know what I mean? It's like
some baby's getting it.
Yeah. It's like
somehow.
Either it's going to kill that and then be able to feed its babies, or the babies are going to starve. I'm like, it's terrible to think of it in that way. Like we're set up just compete.
Yeah.
So, and I guess like you've always said that humans, we've kind of gotten mostly out of this.
I don't think so at all.
Oh, yeah.
No, we're competing harder than ever with each other. Just look at trying to get your kids into elite schools and colleges and everything like this, we're competing harder than ever. Definitely.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. You see
Yeah.
it in dating and all walks of life, right?
Just about everywhere.
Jiu-jitsu.
And jiu-jitsu, even just in the training and the practice, you compete against each other. I think there's something about that where you go into the jiu-jitsu academy, you compete with your friends, with your classmates, and you do it in a dignified way, in the right way, a way that has there's
So you're not-
something.
You know, I guess it's both like we're separated from the like life and death aspect of it. You know, we don't have to like.
We're insulated from it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. That's what we're saying. You don't see a killing floor. Or you don't see,
Slaughterhouse.
and you don't.
You don't hunt for your food.
Yeah, you're not like, if I don't get this, my offspring die. You know, we're insulated.
Unless
from
you own a
that.
fish tank, you're
Yeah.
insulated from all of that.
Yeah, yeah. Me having a fish tank, I feel like I'm right still in the middle of it. But it expresses itself in other ways, right? Like the gym.
Absolutely. But there's something about that if we can somehow compete in the right way, it's I don't know if there's something about it's the best part of humanity if we can like just raise our head above that ruthless competition a little bit. And not in the way that like, well, we're going to give everybody a participation ribbon. That's we know that's not good either, right?
Right.
Like we know we should be competing, and we're just trying to figure out how hard should we be competing. You know, that's why we set up rules. And then when somebody does a Lance Armstrong and they just break a bunch of rules, well, you don't feel good about them. Like he's doing something wrong. He's not competing the right way.
Right. And isn't getting your head around the right levels of investing in this, sort of what we talk about being happy at the academy, at doing jiu-jitsu, is like the right level of not getting too down if you have a bad day or if you lose, not getting too, and at the same time not getting too much that you don't care at all, like sort of navigating those waters.
Navigating that is very hard. Yeah. It's like a infinite point. You're always kind of on one side of it or the other, hovering around it. But the closer you can get to it, is good. But that's hard to do, isn't it? You know, and because we're so smart as humans, we have all these sneaky ways to compete and to not compete. You know, it makes it hard for me, you know, because you can make a joke. Oh, we're gonna roll, and I'll start making jokes, and then, oh, it's not as important now. You know what I mean? Like I'm softening the possibility of not winning, but that is a form of competition itself. You know what I mean? You're kind of gaming the system. It's so tricky. I still haven't gotten my head around it yet, Dan. But you know, because I know we have to compete, and I try to compete hard, but if we're just pure competition, then aren't we just this ruthless part of nature? You know what I mean? Aren't we just eating the eyes off of the other fish in the tank?
Right. And just at the common sense level, it's just not, you know, the gym wouldn't be as fun as if everyone's just being ruthlessly competing the whole time.
Right.
And the gym also wouldn't be as fun if everyone was just, picture the opposite extreme where everyone's laughing and no one's trying hard, right? It's all kind of, what's fun for me sometimes is just competing as different kinds of people. Some people are going light, some people are going hard, some people are kind of joking around, some people are not, you know.
I guess that's where the sense of cooperation, when you have a team and a tribe, that sort of mitigates the pure selfish competition. You know, we're social animals. We want to be a part of a tribe. So, but, you know, as a coach, obviously, I can feel good about everyone improving and everyone getting better. You know, as an individual, I would be thinking, I don't want anyone to get better than me because I'm competing to be the best. But you can hold those two things in mind. Like, I want to be the best that I can be, but I want everyone in here, because they're my team, to be the best that they can be as well. And that sort of probably gets you in the right place for competing.
Right. And did you just actually make a reference to a positive value of tribe?
Of tribes.
Not
Should do a podcast.
Yeah, I know. You could make that part of the podcast.
Dimitri, this is the first time in 39 episodes we mentioned the word tribe.
I think it's been a while. I think the first few we try to center around tribe.
So what did I say? So I said that being a social animal, having your tribe can help put competition in a healthy place. It'll get it on that point of like,
right, where it's not purely selfish and purely out for your the only benefit would be your own good,
right,
your own advancement,
right.
Tribe allows you to feel like other people advancing and helping other people is also good for you,
because we don't want to quit. That like not competing. I instinctively feel that's awful, the not competing thing. You must feel the same way, I imagine.
What do you mean? What's the not competing thing? To just
to give up and to submit.
Yeah,
Like even when you see a person being submissive to another person, there's something that's really off-putting about that, isn't it?
Yeah, for me it is.
Yeah.
I mean, just sort of like a toady kind of thing, like sort of a yes man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Nobody really likes that, right?
No, there's something disturbing about it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got to compete. We want to be the toughest competitors that we can be, but we don't want to somehow be too ruthless in competing, right?
Right. Yeah. That's so. I just realized it's like this became the fish tank episode.
The fish tank, yeah. Well, yeah, but it does speak to what we're talking about, this competition and ruthlessly competing, I think as humans we can come up with this idea of competing in a noble way is a beautiful thing. And obviously fish and bears don't think about that, right? Even guys who hunt, I'm not a hunter, but they may hunt with a bow and arrow, and they put some restrictions on themselves. They just don't go out.
Yeah, they all put rules because everyone, or they sneer at like the idea of putting out a salt lick and getting deer used to coming there, and then they just hide and shoot them. It's like there's no sport to it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It makes it more noble.
Right. No one wants to hunt from a helicopter with a machine gun, right? Like it's sort of.
I kind of wanted to try that.
Sounds all
no,
right.
I would never do that.
Now that I say it, it sounds kind of fun. But like, they wanted some sort of sporting, some sort of fair competition, right?
Right. The whole fairness thing is very interesting. It's so important to us.
Even jiu-jitsu, right? No one wants to go in and slaughter someone much less skilled than you, like
right?
Just brutalizing them, that's not.
Yeah.
For most people, that's not going to be fun. I mean, maybe for someone.
I totally agree. That's why competing at these different belt levels is interesting, because who's a white belt, who's a blue belt, who's a purple belt, and so forth is very subjective and somewhat arbitrary. So, winning a white belt tournament is terrific, but it's not the end game by any means, right? And people can game that system too, and just what they call it sandbagging when you enter, a division that is full of competitors with much less experience than you. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, part of, again, jiu-jitsu centered around competition, right? And I don't even compete. Like, I don't go to the tournaments, but it's still you're still going against someone every, that's central to it.
Yeah.
Every day. Yeah. And, I mean, I think just everyone has part of something in them. They want to do that, right? I can't imagine. Isn't that what you're getting from jiu-jitsu? Like being able to compete?
I think so.
Without,
Yeah, we have a beginner class where we don't have any sparring in it, Dan, no rolling, where we just show technique and do some drilling. And a lot of people like that. It's got some people in our academy to join who might not have joined otherwise. But for me, the rolling part is always the fun part.
Well, for me, it was from day one.
Yeah.
But I would guess for even the people who don't want that from day one, eventually will want to do it, right? I
think you'd have to.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not, but is there anyone? Do you know anyone that's done it for a while and they're like, I just want to drill. I don't want to.
I don't think so. I think for them, it's just so much fun. I mean, it's like learning the rules to a game without actually playing the game.
Right.
Is nowhere near as fun.
Right. And it's almost like they just think they won't like it because it's so unfamiliar to them. And you just
so what do you like about it when I'm trying to remember when I was a white belt. I think what's cool is you drill a technique, you're shown something, and you get some level of mastery with it, and then you apply it on somebody else, and it works, and you just feel like you've gained some sort of superpower. It's pretty exciting, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's been a little while since I think I've felt that way, but since I've had something that works. But
what was the last submission that you've applied to somebody and that you made them tap? Kimura or something?
It's hard to remember.
Yeah.
The last one I remember is a choke.
Choke? Rear naked choke? Or guillotine?
Sort of it was a rear naked, but I didn't do it. Yeah, it wasn't a
modified kind of choke from the back.
Yeah, yeah.
It's pretty satisfying.
I heard it called the Captain America choke.
Captain America choke. I haven't heard that.
That's how I remembered it, is because you put your arm around their neck and you go like this, and then you kind of, it helps you remember to put your chest into them.
Do like a side bicep and chest pose?
Yeah, it's sort of like this, but it helps you. The idea was that that's actually how you should do it, like put your chest out. And
that's so, I never heard of that.
Yeah, I don't know.
You learn something new every day in jiu-jitsu.
Captain America choke.
Yeah.
I'm sure, I mean, it's a very normal choke, right? But it's just the modified. It's just when you can't get your hand in here.
Now, what was more satisfying, doing that or smashing that poor fish with the rock?
I would say the choke. I don't think let's be clear, I didn't get satisfaction from smashing the fish.
I'm just being silly. Yeah, I know. You were just trying to solve a very difficult problem.
I know. This whole thing was for me to complain about those vet
people.
The vet people.
Yeah.
And now that's probably going to be like, now I'm going to hear it from twice as many people because of this podcast.
The millions that listen to this, yeah, you could be in trouble.
Yeah, that's true.
You could get doxxed.
The massive amount of people.
Yeah, it could come home. Your house could be some protesters in front of your house wearing fish suits.
Well, that would be. I wouldn't mind that.
You wouldn't mind that.
That'd
Yeah.
be sort of funny.
What else should we talk about?
I feel like inadvertently the fish kind of thing made it hard to translate. Like, so we were going to talk about like nutrition and jiu-jitsu, but
I've lost my appetite.
It's just so hard to feel like we went on this whole like, almost like.
Well, I think
this
Dan,
almost
what you
disturbing kind of tangent. Now it's like,
I think
how do you go back to like?
I think we went on a disturbing tangent, but I like the tangent of this because I'm wrestling with this all the time. This competition thing, like how hard should I be competing, and not just in a very general sense.
So what do you mean that you're wrestling with it? Like, why isn't it the quick answer? Like sometimes you go hard, sometimes you go less hard.
But why? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, and
so is that what you're wrestling with? Like the why of it, or the
and should I be just part of nature, which is ruthless and competes as hard as possible, and why? Or is there something more noble, or is there some dignity, or is there something spiritual about? See, I don't see it like when, I read this book years ago about St. Francis of Assisi. Remember that guy? He was an animal lover. He was a big animal guy, right? Birds landing on him, and he's kind of like a Walt Disney character, like Uncle Remus or something, like talking to the animals and everything. So I read a biography about him, and he supposedly was the son of a merchant, and he became very wealthy and successful in business and trading, and he led a very decadent lifestyle until he had some moment of epiphany. And I don't remember why he had this turn, but then he gave away everything he had, and he got a group of followers, and he said, what we should do is beg all day long, keep some of what we've begged to feed ourselves, and give the rest to the poor. And this is the way we should live, and everyone should live this way. And then I immediately thought, well, who are we going to be begging from if we're all begging and taking a little of it and giving a little of it to poor people?
You are the poor people.
Exactly. And it makes no sense at all. So, this idea of laying down and not competing just feels so wrong. It's almost like when we talk about that voice and getting choked when that evil Pat Browning was breaking my neck, and I heard this voice saying, "Just quit. It's easier," or like the Nazi in the that scene of the
Saving Private Ryan.
Saving Private Ryan when
Yeah.
he's like, "Don't struggle, it'll be easier. Just go quietly," as he's killing the guy. Yeah, I know that I have to say no to that voice. So,
And are you wondering specifically, like, if you want to do another tournament, like, and ramp up to that level of competition?
no, I'm going
Is
to do a few more tournaments this year. So that's not it. But
So you know that's settled for you. You're
yeah,
gonna-
yeah, because I legitimately think I have a chance of being winning the designation of a Masters World Champion. So that's kind of exciting enough, and I will regret it if I don't. I might look back and go, "Shit, why didn't I try to do that?"
Yeah, when
So,
you had the chance. Yeah.
yeah, I think regrets are good to think about, Dan. Don't you think?
Yeah.
If you do the things,
You mean try to ahead of time?
try to like project. Will I regret not doing this, and then do those things? I think that's important. I think
Right.
otherwise,
Yes. Yeah, they're not good to have later. It's like
Yeah,
not to
shoot,
dwell
yeah.
on your actual regrets. It's like
Yeah.
to anticipate regrets.
I think that's important. Isn't that what Bezos did to decide to start Amazon? He had some
Yeah.
great job
They're
where he
gonna
was
say to
making
get
300 or
divorced.
400 grand,
Yeah.
and he said, "Yeah, when I'm 90 years old in my rocking chair, will I regret not doing this?" And he said, "Yeah, I will." So then he went and did it.
Yeah.
It's like this podcast. If we hadn't done this, created this Power of the Tribe podcast, we would regret it, not
Yeah.
doing it.
I had gone to my grave thinking, what if I just now no one's heard my fish tank stories.
Okay, so let's summarize this. Let's wrap it up. So I think we
Let's see
learned
if you
that
can do this.
nature is ruthless. Competition is inherent in nature, and we're part of nature. It's in us. So let's compete in the right way. Let's compete with dignity. Let's have respect for our tribe, and let's root for them, the people we're training with, that they get better, and they're going to get better if we compete hard, and we'll get better, and we'll find satisfaction, fulfillment in that. How does that sound?
That's a pretty good summary.
And thank God humans don't have hole in the head disease.
Yeah,
It's only a
and be
fish thing.
happy you don't have hole in the head disease. Yeah, you can't catch fish diseases.
Well, Dan, have a great time up there in the Catskills. You think you'll sneak out and do a little hike by yourself?
I
Probably, right?
will. I won't go up a mountain.
No, just
just
do a
do-
little
yeah.
hour or two.
Yeah, walk to a waterfall or something.
So cool. Awesome. Well, thank you again for another brilliant podcast. I love all your stories. Awesome stuff. I'm glad you prepared that stuff before you come in here. And
Yeah, I only got partway through my notes.
that's it. And everyone, please like, rate, and review, and tell your friends about this podcast. And we'll see you all next week. Take care.